Just for a moment, sweet child, close down your eyes. Hear the birds, the trees, and the rustling of the leaves. In my arms, you will always find home. Come now and rest your heart where you've always belonged. To that which you doubt, say farewell, for trust will guide you in the dark. You are never alone. In every person, in every sound, I'm speaking your name and weaving you through creation. Feel the vibration that is living, moving, and being. My sweet, sweet child, you living fully is my gift to you. In love, grace, and mercy, you are whole. Seeing Beyond the Scene by Francesca Raffa.
So with these words, we welcome you into this space. And today we are bringing to you the topic of divine union and the path of love that Yeshua and Mary Magdalene walk through this earth. And yeah, as I heard this transmission by this beautiful sister of mine, what I personally receive is so much this coming back into the body. And so I invite you to do the same. When you hear divine union, what actually happens in your body, in your system, in your different bodies, in your feeling, your emotional, your physical body, your energetic body. One of the things that we have been really feeling is that it's not so much about intellectually understanding these concepts, and so much more about how do we feel them and how do they move through us, what's our experience, and that's then the path of sovereignty, as we've touched on the last episode. So yes, sister, I wonder if you would love to put some words on divine union and your feeling around this topic.
Yeah, I feel like we hear a lot of divine union being used and thrown around in many ways, and I feel like what we really wanted to bring this topic into was to understand from a place of remembrance what divine union is. And when I feel into divine union, there is like this thread between my heart and my womb, and it's the consciousness of the heart, of the unconditional love, and anchoring that into this present, into the tangible, into the womb, and also where the womb is our access point to our multi-dimensional selves, or the cosmic self, right? And kind of bridging that, the bridge between heaven and earth, and the remembrance that we are all walking this path in this human body to bring more soul into the here and now. And the union that I feel is this path of wholeness within, and the inner marriage, and the inner vowing within self, within the inner father, the masculine, the inner mother, the feminine, and then we operate and move from the place of creation, which is the inner child, to continuously see through the eyes of curiosity, of newness, of oneness, of awe. I'm getting a heat in the back of my heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What comes through for you?
I love that you use the word bridge. So when I feel into divine union, I actually feel the cross. And the way that presents itself to me is that my left side and my right side connect in some way. So I feel like this intertwining and weaving between them. And then I feel the bridge between left and right in this 3D. And then I feel the bridge of my verticality. So earth and sky, heaven and earth. I also really, really resonate with a sense of wholeness from that. So difficult to put into words, but the feeling of the bodies is the sense of wholeness, and instead of something that is reaching outside, it's just a harmony, a sense of harmony within my system. It's just like wholeness, it's here, it's settled, it's regulated.
Yeah, and I think what we touched on before around this being a path as is anything, coming into union, and I feel like in a 3D way, or this path is taught through relationships, because they are the mirrors to be able to see where we are maybe not operating from a place of wholeness, or really revealing those deeper wounds that need tending to, and not from a space of like a codependency and operating, but it's like through the relationship of someone else, we are able to really see that dissonance and then get to claim it back for ourselves. And so when we talk of divine union, we often hear, how do we call in our counterpart? And sometimes I feel like it's not like this one drop of counterpart, because there is the path towards that is always preparing us for maybe it is one counterpart, right? Because I believe this path is very about being devotional within an aligned relationship, that you are growing and you are meeting each other, but perhaps the path there can be a little bit of a messy one, and the counterparts that you do attract, or people that are your relationships you are inviting, are always going to be revealing those deeper revelations of self, of wounding from the masculine, wounding from the feminine, right? And how that works, because I think a lot of the union that comes within, and especially as women in a woman's body, there is a lot of healing that has to be done around the masculine figure and what that means to us and how that's created. But then ultimately the same for a man, but I'm not going to talk from that part, because that's I don't know, right? I can only speak from the woman's perspective.
I would say even in a female body, there's so much work to be done around the feminine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I really think like there are still so many women thinking that they are operating from the masculine, when they are just operating from a toxic pattern offered by society. And that's not the masculine. The masculine is a sacred energy that is directional and present, and it's divine consciousness. But yeah, that's a whole topic. So coming back here to divine union, I really love that, as you were saying, right? So often actually we touch on divine union, and the first thing we feel is about the other. And that's beautiful, because we are human beings, and that's so much part of this human experience is through the mirror of the other, and how I relate to the other, that I get to learn about myself. But ultimately, it's really about our own experience. So where is the inner marriage of my feminine and masculine, that then will be reflected by also like the mother and father connection, right? And how was my path up until now? And truly to come back into seeing all those pieces that we left behind into wholeness. And it's an ongoing path. So this is also something we would love to touch on, is that it's not that we will ever be ready. It's not that we are working towards a goal to then be able to be in divine union with another, or even to feel like I'm whole now. It's a spiraling up the path of love. So we keep on spiraling and seeing the different parts of ourselves more and more into that deep remembrance. And that's why we believe so much in this path of devotion, because we get to meet those pieces deeper and deeper.
Yeah. I'm like, as I'm feeling it, it's like my heart is just expanding in this topic, and I just want to share a little bit about what you touched on, because it's like, well, what the question could be is, well, how do I step into or like, what does it look like to start on this path of union, and how can I come into inner union, right? What does that look like? And a big part of that is looking at your father wounds and your mother wounds. I often say that on this path, and it's been the experience within my journey, but I've also witnessed it with other women that I've guided, and just in spaces, in conversations that I've had, is that often we have to go through this thing that I call the pendulum swing. So, for example, Leah touched on it now, where it's like a lot of women think they're operating from their masculine, and it's actually a little bit more of a toxic masculine, because it's like this overdoing and this, and what I was very much operating from that space, and I swung the pendulum all the way to the other side, and I was like really deep. I
know that one.
Yeah, really deep in the feminine,
Yes.
But and then I'm going to explain why I feel like working on the feminine and the mother line is the first point of protocol first, actually, because that is our feeling body and the depth and the why, to which all of the masculine direction and kind of truth or presence can hold. So it's so important that there's like this knowing of self through the emotional lens, which is what has been eradicated as important within society, right? So it's like, that is the part that really needs to be nurtured deeply. So yeah, swinging all the way over to the feminine, I'm in my feminine, right? The things that you see on Instagram or whatever, floating around. And that's a huge part of it, because you're becoming attuned. You are remembering your place and belonging within the earth, and how to commune with the earth, right? Really being in the feminine, cyclical understanding of self. And then I feel like once there is this big swing, and you know how to approach the masculine from a feminine heart, there is an opening to, okay, how have I kind of rejected, shunned my own inner masculine? Maybe, I mean, from my own personal story, I've felt like in points in my life, and I didn't know this until I really stepped into this work, but I always felt very, and maybe you will relate, I always felt very like split into two, right? Like this one that wanted to be creative and playful and this, and then I had this like what I felt was very harsh, very like disciplined, very like, no, you need to do it this way, and they were always in this like inner battle, right? Like, and I feel like this is what most of us may experience, and this is where union comes in so importantly, because when we really understand how our inner feminine and inner masculine work within us, we can find that place of what you were saying, Leo, this kind of like dance, right? And so when I really swung over to the feminine, then I started from the feminine heart. Okay, how can I actually meet the inner masculine from a place of, I know you want to protect me. I know you want to set the right boundaries. I know you want to indicate discipline so that I'm actually directional and bringing all of whatever I'm supposed to be bringing into this life and actually taking action and doing it. Because if we're two in one, you're acting from a place of like a lack of knowing why, and it can feel kind of like you're just on this rat race wheel, but you're not quite anchored in the purpose or the why or the feeling fuel, as I call it, because the feeling body is what fuels the rest to take flight. And if you're operating too much from that, they can feel this lack of meaning, lack of purpose, kind of, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel like I just, you know, got to be here, got to do it. And if you're operating too much from the feminine, you're a lot of the action is missing. So you're just like in this beautiful being, which, oh my gosh, love, right? You know, I'm gonna sometimes I gotta let him take me out of it, because like it's just, I'm just gonna be and I'm gonna dance and I'm just gonna be in my feels. But then that can also create a space of non-action and a place of maybe like wallowing, because you're just in it all and in the feels, and you're not really seeing what those feelings are kind of wanting to direct you in, right? You're just like, I'm just gonna be in. And I think take your absolute time. I know I sometimes go days in those spaces, as long as is necessary, but knowing that I have my anchor and my direction to take me out. So it's kind of this, and it's what we were saying, this dance, like this inner dance first. This inner union is that dance between that and
It brings me a lot to the topic of trust. Actually, the word for me that I hear, it's trust.
Love
so
that.
I would say that inside, from the inside, often when there is this space where the feminine is taking over, and it's like, you know, the masculine is there, but there is this kind of fighting in some way, like we are separate, right? They are separate inside of us, and in some way that will reflect in the outside. And so how can we actually come into trust and know that both of them want the best, or to create, actually, because we are the creators. So how can we create that inside of us, so that they both see each other, hear each other? And I'm very, very passionate about conscious relating. So that often is what we see on the outside, is that women and men cannot understand, hear, see each other. And instead they fight, because they think like, you know, that the other person will take something from them, when actually, again, we come back to the softness of the heart and the vulnerability of like, if no one was taking anything from me, how would I show up? And how can I really stay in that open heart? And again, the path of love, the path of unconditionally showing up in this relating. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but more that in each relationship, in each relating in our lives, we get to be in training in some way. So yeah, I also, when you were speaking, I was feeling into, how do we actually see that playing out when we are not in harmony inside of us? How does that show up in the outside, in the external? And that often comes as codependency, right? So it's really when you start seeing that I get to be in my feminine, but then I need that other person to be there, so that I feel safe, or so that I feel like I can feel things, or so that it shows up in this way that the masculine will then be outsourced. And if you are able to start seeing the masculine outside of you from the lens of beauty and what it's bringing to you, then you can bring that in your inside as well, in your inner masculine, and what he can offer you.
Beautiful, touching on the micro and macro there, because if we use what is happening in our external world to help us understand and mirror what is happening in our inner world, we can best understand how to shift what we are maybe liking or not liking in our outer world. That we have to go within. If we keep attracting certain types of people, for example, it's like, well, where within my own energetics or imbalance between my feminine and masculine here is creating this as into my field? Because when we talk about because even divine union, and union is really about being a creator. So how can you really create? And if you want to consciously create, this is where this work is necessary, right? Because we are creating all day long, don't get me wrong, we're always creating. It's just whether you know, you're creating from an aligned conscious place, or you're creating from unconscious patterns and chaos, ultimately. Because bringing that in, there's the feminine does operate from a place of chaos. She is the magic of chaos creation. But then if you're actually trying to achieve something that is needing structure and momentum, that is when the masculine, the inner masculine, can come in to support that. So we are always in creation. It's just, if you want to create consciously and really like sit with, okay, if this is what I'm calling in, right? If I'm calling something in, where does that work need to be done within first? That's the energetics.
Yeah, and all of this is the path of devotion, right? It's the moments through in which I sit and devote to myself and to my inner landscapes, so that then I show up, because so many of us actually do wish for that divine union, do wish to find that one person or people that they want to devote to. And yeah, we've touched on this before coming live, in how Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, they've both done a deep path of devotion before meeting each other, as a preparation of some kind. So Mary Magdalene has sat in the priestess path in the temples of Isis for years, since she was a child. And Yeshua, from the years that are unspoken, has traveled to Asia and sat with monks in silence and ancient practices, and traveled through the world. So yeah, this deeper truth that it's always the path of self first, right? First and in between, because it's an everlasting journey. Yeah.
How we're also doing for the collective, right? That this is also a collective path.
So something that I'm very, very passionate about in my relatings and how I guide my clients as well, is that the path of relating, and that can be with self and God, right, primarily, but also with another, is that in this connection, this turn on for life, this life experience, is the remembrance that we are not doing this just on the 3D, not just on a human level. It's not that I'm gonna meet someone because I want to find this love of my life. It's because it's like it was designed, beautifully designed, for us to do this as a prayer for the collective heart. So I meet with God in divine union, I meet myself in divine union, I meet another in divine union, because that's the highest expression of what we can be, as a living prayer of love. So how can that actually show up in our lives? How can we relate in such a way? Is by showing up and remembering that from the, I never know how to pronounce, but the macro to the macro to micro.
Micro to macro.
Yeah, micro to macro. So that every time I see my partner, I don't just see the man or the woman next to me. I'm actually seeing the divine feminine, the divine masculine. I'm seeing Mother Earth. I'm seeing every woman, every man in them. So yeah, and this speaks a lot about an unconditional path as well. So I'm not trying to take something out of a relating, but instead I'm finding so much harmony in myself, and I'm able to see the other through the eyes and the lens of love, and with that being in a more unconditional relating of some kind. Yeah, I think next it would be super beautiful to actually speak into Christ. So when we bring Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, often the word Christ comes into the space. And it's also for the ones walking the left-hand path, which is the left is the more feminine path, where we actually now start to see that Mary Magdalene has walked by Yeshua's side, not as just another person who believed in his teachings, but she's actually a counterpart. And through history we see that although the man usually has more of an overview, and we are able to see the man shining like the sun, the moon is always there, the woman is always by his side, and they are complementary, and the man would not be doing the work of going forward if there wasn't this nurturing, this complementary work being done. And so with that, we say that Christ is not Yeshua, is not who he is, but instead Christ is consciousness. So we speak about Christ consciousness, working through them, through Yeshua, through Mary Magdalene. And in today's life, then we have Christ consciousness coming through us as the new earth birthers in some way. So it's not that we are waiting anymore for someone else to show us the way, but it is that we are finding the way through us.
Yeah. And it's beautiful that we're in this point in time within evolution that there is enough safety to actually drop into the remembrance of this, right? Like, for when their teachings were spread, the backlash that Yeshua received and Mary Magdalene, and the truth that they wanted to share, and how that was ill received in a way, and then it kind of got shut down for thousands and thousands of years. So it's actually really beautiful to acknowledge in this moment in time that we are clearly in this space within evolution, that we have a safety to reawaken this, and it's what we would refer to as the flaming heart, right? This is the reignition of the unconditional love that we are here to emanate and ground, as you were saying before, to really ground it to the gridding of this earth, to clear the earth's karma ultimately in so many ways, and clear the energy that's been distorted in the planet for so many years. So there is a real importance of union at this time, which is why there is no coincidence as to why it is in our field, and we have this awareness of it, and we have this remembrance, and we have this longing, but the longing must come from the devotion to self that we will continuously talk about, and I will continuously go on about it, because it's your life's own initiation through what is being given to you. Like, life is happening for you, and your role in that is, how do you get to choose to respond in all of that? Like, that's how can there be more spaciousness and openness to respond from the open heart. And it's so challenging to have and keep an open heart in this world, right? This is actually what we get to practice on a daily. Is like, how can I keep my heart open when I've got all of this past that is making me afraid to step into love, to step into even being seen by a counterpart, because then it's going to reveal I don't want to do it, I don't want to face it. And that's the caging of the heart. But then how can we open the heart to see all relation as one, ultimately see relation as not about that being or that being, and how they're revealing. It's just like how they are showing themselves to you is how you are treating yourself, where there is still a sense of neglect or rejection, and we can really move through the world in this way a lot more easily. And I wanted to touch on responsibility. Actually, that's what I was wanting to touch on, because there is a huge part of responsibility when we are stepping into inner union with self, because then we become like a conscious creator. So that means there is a deeper responsibility that you feel, and sometimes it can feel heavy, because then you start to look at everything and you're like, if you're not happy with it, or if things are like misaligned, there's this sense of, oh, like, you know, you can actually become like kind of hard on yourself with this sense of responsibility, like, okay, I thought I was there but I wasn't. But actually to bring more ease to that, because like, again, life is going to keep on happening and it is going to constantly keep revealing, but it's not necessarily about, okay, well, where did I go wrong or what do I need to fix? It's more about seeing that as an opportunity of what's longing to be freed. And I love to bring that in more about how am I being shown where I am not free. Yeah. And how can we really truly have freedom without responsibility? Because freedom without responsibility, it is imbalanced, and responsibility without freedom is imbalanced. And they need each other to create a very strong, solid foundation of love.
Yes, you speak about responsibility. I almost have a sense of loneliness. Sometimes it can feel heavy, right? If we go too much into this actually judgment of, I have been doing this wrong because it's showing up in this way. And it's not about punishment anymore. You know, that time is over. So if it's not about punishing ourselves and going too deep into that sense of like, oh, because I am the creator and I'm creating this, then what am I doing wrong? Then how can we actually find a space where we meet God in it? So, because ultimately, I truly believe that whenever we are feeling lonely is because we are forgetting. We are forgetting that we are connected to God, that we are his, hers, their children, right? So to always come back to that connection to God, to actually come on our knees, and our knees, it's not because we are lower, but just because we are in reverence to it, and to actually sit in that place and offer some of that responsibility to God, which is not necessarily meaning that you are putting your responsibility on the side, is that you know that you are a co-creator as well of life, right? That there is this connection to God, and that you get to give some of the burden away and listen more. Because if we try to live this life too much from our human, and I mean, more and more I'm walking a path where I know that our desires are holy and that they are word of God. But where can you also go a little bit beyond your human hearing of desires and actually be led by God, be led by her? And where does that take you? Because from my experience in the path of devotion and a lot through the journey with the Blue Lotus, she has taken so much out of me from the place of actually like emptying lots of things that I thought I knew about myself, in places that I was caging myself into a personality. And when she washed those things away from me, I became more connected in that way, to truly be able to, if I have a decision to make, it's not just about what my mind will take me through and think that I should be doing, but rather like about this connection and really staying open, like, okay, where am I going now? And the direction is shown. So with that also the creation of life, it's like, what am I creating here? And if we truly then are able to keep this heart open, these wings activated, where are we going from there? Yeah, so with that, at some point when you were touching, I don't know if you used the word alchemy, if I heard it through the lines, but I think it would be so beautiful to touch on the path of Mary Magdalene and how she is a true vessel for our understanding of alchemy, how she has brought and also like into this human form and all the history or her story around sin and everything, because she was said to be the holy whore, right? And so many knew her through her being a whore. So actually, through her story, when we go deeper, we are actually able to see how she has been an empowered woman, a liberated woman, and how she teaches us to walk the path of the divine and being in connection, in the path of love, in connection to the cosmos, but to be a woman, and that they don't, not a but, and to be a woman, and that they are not separate, that we don't need to choose one or the other. So yeah, I wonder if you want to go deeper in it.
Yeah, I feel like that's why at these times she's you know, her name is being called upon. And again, similarly to what we shared before in the Isis episode with sovereignty, is her name is being called upon, but it's the consciousness that she carries that is longing to be remembered through us, because she was a very, you know, a woman walking her life path, many moments of suffering, and how those brought her the teachings that were necessary, right? Like she holds this frequency that knows the challenges of the human experience so well, and is also still saying, and that is the whole point.
Yes.
And that is the whole point. The walking, the process, that is the whole point. And it's and how can you stay humbled hearted in that? Because the journey of like when you are in those places and moments of deep despair and pain, and you are on your knees and you're going, it's beyond me, I cannot, I don't know, it's then that moment that she can come in. It's that moment that you allow that greater power to come in, because you are, you're like, it's not even, it's not even a weakness, it's a full honoring of the experience that you're in, and the pain that we also have to experience here. And then they come in and then they remind you, like we were saying before, you are a child of the cosmos, but you are also a child of the earth, and you are also here to really walk in this way with an open heart and from a place of love. And the more you meet yourself in those depths, the more compassion, capacity, and love you are able to meet for another. And it's one of those things. It's like, how can you really be compassionate for somebody else if you cannot touch self-compassion? How can you truly, unconditionally, fully love another when there are distortions and conditionings around love within yourself? And that's deep. That is deep, that's ancestral, that's having to really look at your parents' relationship. And I touched on this before, but it's our first understanding of the masculine is our father. The first understanding of the outward feminine is our mother. So these are the models that we hold, right? And that's creating our way of relating. So to unwind these conditions, these distortions, these patterns, it's really starting at that point. And there is that moment where I was saying, when you are reaching those places, those despair, it's like your heart cracks open to remember that you were always the love you were looking for. And we hear that a lot, right? You're the one you've been looking for.
I feel so much turn on when you talk about this, that I would say like a heartbreak, right? It doesn't have to be just a relationship, but like the heartbreak, the grieving, the
human heartache.
Yes,
just being human is
and it's like it cracks you open. It opens so much if we allow it, right? Instead of contracting. So this is a piece. If you're in heartbreak, instead of contracting, can you actually open? And can you find a turn on in that experience? Because we are both so passionate about the void and going into the darkness and the shadow. And can you find a turn on in being there? Because often, and I would say this is also really a place of when you're deep in your feminine and you're not having your masculine to, create the riverbed, then it feels like it's forever. I'm never gonna leave this place. And it feels so like, ugh. So if and when we start to actually be able to create a container and be then there, like, oh, all of it, all of me is able to be here because I know I have a container, then we are really able to find a deep turn on of actually going underneath and taking all those pieces and feeling them all, because we know It's not just this. And this whole conversation has been around polarity. So we speak so much about feminine and masculine. And this is another touch of polarity, is that we need to touch the pain to be able to touch the love, to be able to touch the pleasure. And then they intertwine, but it's always like the pendulum, the pendulum play.
Yeah. That spectrum, right? That we're the more joy, more ecstasy and pleasure we want to experience, we must also be willing to go deeper into the depths and the pain and the sorrow. Yes. And these are places that I kind of actually want to speak to, not from a medical point of view, but something that I see quite a lot, because we often label these big pendulum swings or moments as bipolar, or you know, and I don't have this type of medical history, so I can't speak on these parts, but from a very spiritual lens and from what I see and how I support clients within spaces with a lot of mental health issues, I see it simply an imbalance and a dissonance between soul and the human. That's it. And it's wild, but it's like, can you meet yourself in the swinging of that, the depth, right, and hold yourself, and there is the work that has to be done, like you were mentioning before, the regulation piece, the trust, the trusting of yourself to how can you even be a container for all of those emotions if you are struggling to find safety within. So there is you know, processes and I don't even want to say steps, but it's like along the journey that you'll start to recognize are revealing themselves, that are all preparing you for, right? I do feel that it's all a preparation for, and some of us will, you know, old souls that are here sharing more of this work have walked this path many times and have experienced many of these lessons in their lifetime, so then the remembrance is a little bit quicker. And then there's others on the journey that it's a lot slower, it's a lot longer. They're newer souls, they're here to experience a very different way of being, right? And we all have our place within this web, in this constellation, otherwise we wouldn't be here in this human form. But going back to union, it's always going off, but going back to union, and if this is a path that you feel is calling you, I actually just want to share a few kind of signs, actually. And I think I'm going to share this from my experience, and maybe you can share, like, what have been the signs that you felt like, this is the path that's been calling me all along. For example, the rose, being kind of very drawn to working with the rose, or being kind of infatuated by her beauty as a plant, but also the frequency that she holds, because she holds the frequency of unconditional love and is the most highest vibrating flower. So there's that. There is maybe very connected to Hathor, if you've heard of Hathor, one of the ancient goddesses. Or even when you hear the name Mary Magdalene, how it rings in a different tone. And what are the other signs I've received in knowing that this is the path? Like, maybe it's also just how your nature is, like, you know, like your actual nature of seeing beauty and love in everything that you do. It's like it's the Venusian energy, like this connection to sensuality and sexuality as sacred, and this deep knowing that it is like the journey that sacred sexuality takes you on, right? Because this is also part of union.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Through sacred sexuality, we actually touch our innocence, and that's going back to the mysteries of Eden, right? It's the place where we come from is sexual, it's innocent, and it's the remembrance that sexuality and innocence, they come together. They are our birthing place. They are who we are. Sexuality is who we are. It's the birthing of flowers and life and colors and the mystery of life itself, the magic. It's this life force. It's the turn on. It's life. It's life itself. And when two humans are able to connect from that space, that's for me the highest I've experienced. And I still believe, from what we were sharing from the beginning, that this is an inner path. We find the divine union within, and there is a reason why men and women are called to each other, right? It's because within this union with another, when the two are meeting from their inner union and they meet each other, then the path of Horus is born, this third entity. So inner joke. So the third entity is then born from that connection, and then we come back to this exponential experience of the connection to the highest, and the highest becoming within this path that we came here to walk. Is within the divine union that we can find the deeper purpose of life, that it's not necessarily being, it's not just about the service in the way that we often think about it, like I'm going to be this type of therapist that it's going to help these kind of people. It's so much more actually about, how do I live my life? How do I show up with my partner? How do I show up with a woman that is working in the grocery shop? And right,
the embodiment,
it's becoming it.
Because these are all concepts that we could probably perfectly polish and regurgitate, and then there's the truth and the walking and the challenges and the tower moments, and then the rises and the full lows and the full highs, and that's the true experience that we're here for. And to honor all of it is sacred, and to honor all of it as whole.
So I'm going to speak a few words before we close. Dear lover, I do not need you to be anything other than the human man on the pilgrimage path, for love and embracing all that it merges. I do not expect you to be the savior on a white horse, or the spiritual messiah of conscious relationship. I know who you are, and I'm here with you. Let us walk together in the crucible of wounds, where dark nights are lit by the stars of our love. I look inside my womb eye through time. I see you have been many things: king, priest, prophet, warrior, scholar, scientist, pioneer, provider, protector, even a god at times. Let us lay these heavy robes down and enter the Garden of Eden within, where we can meet in innocence, you and I, man and woman, naked, humble, in ecstasy. Where lovers' eyes are magic doorways, I invite you into my holy chamber. There is wine and succor here, and space for your needs, your weakness, your grief. I have a sacred fire where your anger and pain can burn. I know you worry, and I have no words, only the soft prayers of my touch. When we lay skin by skin, breathing, I feel something greater breathing us in the darkness, a womb of love that holds us together, even when we have forgotten how to hold ourselves and each other. I will meet you here in this sacred place where the two become one. Serene Bertrand.
Just taking a deep breath into that. So many chills. And we're going to be diving deeper into the Divine Union Codes and the Path of Mary Magdalene in our 8-month immersion starting in February 2026. I believe she is in the month of July.
Yes,
it's her feast day. Yes. So yeah, more transmissions from Mary Magdalene within there. All of the links will be below. And if anything resonated from our shares, questions that came through, sharing even what union feels and means for you. We would love to hear your perspective, because that's how we can all expand our mindset and our truth. So yeah, thank you so much.
And as a little note, if there's any topic you would love for us to touch on, please let us know as well. We are super happy to receive from you so that this can be even more interactive. So yeah, see you in the next one.